Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hi everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. I'm here with Michael Losier. He's going to be speaking about the area of downtown Victoria and specifically the Humboldt Valley, which is right near the Empress for anybody who's been to Victoria. And then we'll be talking about his business with the Law of Attraction and the Emotion Code. So tell me, you're not from Victoria originally, and I know you travel all over the world. Yes. So how did you end up in Victoria?
Well, I'm originally from the East Coast, living near the water in New Brunswick. I moved to Toronto for 2 years and didn't really like it. I really missed the coast. And when I decided I wanted to move back to a coast, I had a job offer here with the provincial government, and I took it right away. I didn't know much about Victoria, except it was on an island when I looked at the map, and I said, there's got to be water near there. So I ended up coming to Victoria to work for the provincial government when I first started. And that was 25 years ago. It was a 1-year contract, and I never left.
So what is it that made you stay? What's the attraction for you?
Well, I remember when I lived in Toronto, I traveled an hour and 25 minutes to get to work one way. And then when I first arrived in Victoria, I remember taking the city bus from the ferry terminal to downtown, and we were going through farmyards and gardens and sheep, and I thought, what did I come to? And then from a distance, I saw a Walmart, and I thought, okay, they have a Walmart here, like that, because I was scared until then. And then the bus drove right downtown, and it was just so magical. I actually call Victoria Canada's gingerbread house. Like, it's just got that energy to it. It's very Victorian, very gingerbread here. So I went from living in a small town in New Brunswick to a big city in Toronto, and it ate me up and spit me out. And then when I got to Victoria, I thought, this is the energy I like. And of course, I love the energy of the West Coast. The vibes are great here. And I never left the downtown area. I arrived here on the bus, and I've had apartments and now my own home within feet of the Inner Harbor.
So I came out here to teach in 1995, and we were out in Metchosin, and we came downtown for the first time, and it's not that far. And same thing, actually, I drove the other day, and I was near the airport. Actually, I was near the ferry terminal, and it took me 30 minutes to get downtown. So that's from the northern part of the peninsula. So that's really close. But I just thought, how am I going to stay here? Like, do you have a car?
You know what? I have a car. It's 10 years old, and I have 40,000 kilometers on it. It should have 250,000. Honestly, living right downtown where I live, the only reason I ever need a car is to go for a drive. And when you live on the southern tip of Vancouver Island, there's only one way to drive. So for me, going up north Duncan, which is not very far, that's a day out. That's a trip. And I've actually never taken my car off the island, so it's in pristine condition. I just replaced the tires a year ago after 9 years, and only because they were old, they weren't worn out. And the guy said, do you ever use your car? And I said, not too much. I mean, everything's here. I have my home office, and when I travel, I'm not traveling within BC. I'm traveling all over the world. And I rarely take my car to the airport.
Right. It's really easy to get to the airport from downtown anyway, right?
Oh, yes. There's always somebody that wants to take me, or there's shuttles or whatever.
So do you walk around the downtown core?
Well, I actually don't go in front of the Empress too much, except in the winter, because sometimes there could be 3 cruise ships here, and that means 10,000 people. And honestly, they don't go behind the Empress. And that's where my condo is, right behind there. But once in a while, you'll see one of them straggle, but they peek around and they say, oh, there's nothing but residential condos here. So I don't go in front of the Empress too much, unless I have a visitor. And I always joke that I have a 2-hour visitor tour, a 4-hour visitor tour, or the full day package. I like the full day package because it means taking my car and going to the woods. showing them the old growth forest and the 800, 900, 1,000-year-old trees. The 2-hour tour is we go in front of the Empress, we get the little water taxi, and then we'll go to Fisherman's Wharf, we'll get a bite to eat, and then we'll walk back. Honestly, that is a beautiful trip that most people never do when they visit. That's the 2-hour tour. So let me know that you're coming. How long do you have? And then I've got different packages for different things.
So I took my kids actually on the they're called the pickle boats. So it's harbor ferries. And as we showed up for this is a couple of years ago, one of my friends who was a retired lawyer was driving, and I'm like, "What, Bob, what are you doing here?" But apparently it's all like former pilots and lawyers and doctors and people who just love riding those things. So I row past them every day. They all have to wear khaki pants and big hats, but it's cute, isn't it? Don't you find our harbor?
Oh, I love the inner harbor here. It's beautiful. It's well looked after. And these little water taxis, they're all handmade out of wood. And they're very comfortable. They're very inexpensive. For $4, you can go from Victoria to Fisherman's Wharf or over to Spinnaker's, which is another great place to go have a bite to eat.
Or Canoe Club.
Canoe Club, yes. Or even down the canal there, the Gorge Waterway. And there's lots going on, even to all the buskers. Like, Victoria really is a tourist town. I also learned that it's the number 2 tourist destination in Canada. And it's the second busiest tourist office in Canada. And I always play the game with people. I always say, can you guess what number 1 is? And most people, they don't guess it. But just think saltwater taffy. What's the first thing that comes to your head?
Oh, is it Prince Edward Island?
No, close. It's Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls has the busiest tourist office in Canada, and Victoria has the second busiest one.
I think we have also the busiest float plane harbor.
Oh, for sure. In the world. I understand in the world, yes. Oh, I'm an advocate for Victoria. I wear Victoria t-shirts, and I travel all over the world, and I have a stock of these t-shirts, and they bring up, everybody knows where Victoria is. I could be in Asia or Australia or China or Hong Kong, and people point, and they always have conversations about Victoria, or they've seen it on TV, and of course they all know about Butcher Gardens and the Empress Hotel. I think they must do a lot of marketing worldwide to get that kind of attention. But it's a good conversation starter, wearing the word Victoria on your T-shirt.
So since you're so close, you're uniquely close to the downtown core, where do you go to eat around here?
Well, I actually like to cook myself a lot, but I do have a couple favorite places. Now, Cora's, that is a Canadian-owned institution. I can see it from my house. They open at 6 o'clock in the morning. And one of my secrets about why I love Cora's so much, because they have those big paper placemats that are blank on the back. So when I go to a restaurant, I work. And I'll sit down, the server wants to take both placemats, I keep one, and I turn it over, and I will work on it and fill it up. I'll plan events. So Cora's Breakfast Restaurant, it closes at 3 o'clock. It's a Canadian institution. If you haven't been to Cora's, you got to go to Cora's in Victoria. It's beautiful.
I've been there.
And next to Cora's is another Victoria-owned and operated place, and it's called the Noodle House. So that's a great place to go get some healthy noodles, and it's all cooked prepared. And then across the street is another locally owned business. It's called Bart's Pub. And I actually wrote my 3rd book at that pub. Because I tried to write here and I get distracted with TV and the internet and the telephone. So I'd go to Bart's Pub and take a yellow pad of paper. I've been using yellow pad of paper for 21 years. I buy it by the case. That's how loyal I am to my yellow paper. And I wrote my 3rd book there. I would go there, and on the top of the pad of paper, I'd write the time. And my goal would be 30 minutes. You can just do 30 minutes because, people resist writing. Well, me too. It's like, I don't feel like writing. Just go and write 30 minutes. And before you know it, I'm there for an hour and a half. And then I would come home and I would type everything that I wrote. And, I can't sit in front of a computer and write a book because I need to flush it out and draw arrows and cross it off and see page 3. And then I come home and digest it all. So I wrote my 3rd book at a local pub here.
There's a great bookstore on Yonge Street, just north of Bloor on the east side, which I think you would enjoy because it was a former library. It's now a Starbucks. And I can see you writing in there. It was inspiring for me to be in there. Okay, top 3 destinations for people coming to Victoria.
Definitely the Inner Harbor Tour on the water taxis and go to Fisherman's Wharf. There's lots of different foods there. There's things for vegetarian. There's tacos. There's fish. There's ice cream. And walk around. It's very beautiful there. There's coffee shops there. And it's the place of float homes. So a lot of people don't know what a float home is. Same with a float plane, right? They say float home. What does that mean? And they're imagining it rocking like a boat. It's like, no, these are beautiful. And in my world, they're very Acadian. You know, I'm from New Brunswick, and Acadian homes are very colorful. They use a lot of bright reds and yellows and pinks and oranges. So this place is very photogenic. It's a photographer's dream, and it's very friendly. And the little water taxis come in there, and you can see seals. So that's a great experience. Experience number 2 is anything to do with an old growth forest. Now, if you go to the phone book when you get to Victoria, if you can find a phone book, there's a map of all the hiking trails in Victoria, or you can look online. So there's Goldstream Park. Now, I label them by how many, like there's the 1 boot hike, which means there's a wooden walkway in the woods, right? You can take your mother there, right? Then there's the 2 boot hike, which means you might have to wear runners and not pretty clothes. Then there's the 3 boot hike, which is you're going to sweat a little bit, bring water. And then there's the 4 boot. You better be ready. So I always want to find out people's level. And again, when I first come here, I was fascinated by these 1,000-year-old trees where you can't even see the treetops. And so I know all the places on Vancouver Island, particularly down in Souk. And within 20 minutes, you can be in an old growth forest. So if you're coming to Victoria, and even if you hired someone, got a it's worth it. There's no admission. Even if you only had to do is pay as a taxi to get there, drop off and say, pick me up in another 4 hours, and you'll have and the energy in the woods. It's always cool in the woods, right? It's all canopy, so the sun doesn't get there. There's hardly any animals in there because it's too dark to grow. There's not a lot of ground cover. So pack a lunch and take a trip to Goldstream Park, or other local,
even Mount Doug,
Millstream Road out by where Costco is. There's lots of beautiful trails in there. Again, you just have to go on the internet and you'll find out all these free hiking trails.
So that would be Gowland Todd Park, which is actually on the other side of Goldstream Park. So if you go to Goldstream Park, it depends on the time of year, but if you go in October, you'll actually hit the fishing run, which is cool, the salmon run.
Yeah, and there's a cycle there, right? Because salmon, I thought this was fascinating. So salmon come back, I think it's 3 years later, they come back to the place they were born. So when they talk about salmon swimming upstream, they're swimming to where they were born. And they get there and they die. They lay eggs, right? So they're reproducing and then they die. So it's a little bit stinky, but it's fascinating. You can see hundreds of salmon all on top of each other coming upstream. Now, phase 2 is lots of dead salmon, which brings in the eagles. So you can witness all the beautiful salmon coming to die and how fascinating that is. And then there's eagles that come, and eagles are beautiful. They're massive, big birds. And then with the salmon also brings bears. So sometimes you see a little bear alert. But so it goes from the salmon to the eagles, and there's a couple waterfalls that are pretty close too. So that was my second destination, and that's the full day tour. If you're coming to visit me with a friend, that we're going to go there for the full day tour. And finally, there's so many places in Victoria, is Beacon Hill Park. Now, I can walk there easily. So if you have kids, they have a great little petting zoo. If you love plants and trees and flowers, like there must be at least 100 different varieties of trees in Beacon Hill Park. It's a big, massive city park. It's well maintained. It's beautiful there. It's right on the ocean. And our oceans are not really swimmable oceans, but they're the kind with the great big driftwood. So you can just lay with the book and get the beautiful sun laying on the beach in front of the big logs, and then Beacon Hill Park. And so they're my three destinations to take people to.
I've known you for a couple of years, and I didn't realize you were so connected to nature.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I love the woods. I know all the trails, and one of my challenges is that my friends have jobs, right? So they're at work right now, and this is my time. And then I like to work on the weekends. That's when I'm most productive, and most of my clients like to have work on the weekends. So I'm opposite my friends. So whenever I know someone's coming, that's like, goody, can we go in the woods? And then I have to find out what boot level we can do, right? So.
Where I live, I walk by the park all the time, and there's a trail. This is in Mechosen that goes around, and it never ceases to amaze me that every time it's different. So you guys have gotten a great introduction to downtown Victoria as well as Greater Victoria and all the natural attributes of living in this great community. If you want more information on downtown Victoria, you can give me a call. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. And my number is 250-744-0775. We're going to be back with Michael, and we're going to talk about the law of attraction and the emotion code. So stay tuned. And if you're interested in being a guest, don't forget to click down below, be a guest, and we'll interview you about your area. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Hi, everybody. It's Jane Johnson. I'm here with Michael Losier, who is going to be talking to us today about the law of attraction and the emotion code. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, let me talk about law of attraction. The word law of attraction, some people are hearing about it. It might be new to a lot of people, but the experience isn't. Most people are used to using the word like, oh, that was such a coincidence. I was just thinking about you. Or that was synchronistic or serendipity or everything fell into place or it was meant to be. If you've ever used any of those words, then you've already been experiencing it. So one of the things that I'm good at is taking a complicated subject and making it easy. So I've been developing and teaching law of attraction for 17 years. And I wrote my book, Law of Attraction, right here. I wrote it 17 years ago, and I self-published. And I ended up selling 200,000 copies on my own. And it went viral. And way back then, 17 years ago, there was no books on Law of Attraction. There was one from 1903 and 1917. So I modeled my book after the Law of Attraction information. I don't own the information. Nobody owns it. It's a law. And what I did is I studied NLP, which stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and that taught me how to teach things to different people using different models and processes and worksheets. My book has since been published in 37 languages, and I sold 2.8 million copies of my book, Law of Attraction. So somewhere someone's reading it in some language somewhere.
So the science of attracting more of what you want and less of what you don't.
Law of attraction's at work right now, and it's this energy in the room. And, whether you like it or believe it or even understand it or not, everything that you're sending out, what your vibe is, you're attracting more of the same. So I know a lot of people have had this experience. They wake up a little bit cranky and they're in a bad mood and the day gets worse and worse and worse and say, oh my God, I should have stayed in bed today. What is going on? And then there's the other person in your industry that's like, maybe they sold a house early today and now got another offer and they say, wow, we're on a roll. Well, that roll, I call it the vibrational roll. So law of attraction is energy around us and it's responding to our vibes. So if you're cranky and negative and complaining, you're putting off a negative vibe, and law of attraction keeps bringing you more things. People think, well, why wouldn't the universe know better? Well, it's not very smart. But it's obedient, right? It doesn't know whether it's good or bad for you or whether you want it or don't want it. It's responding to your vibe right now. So what I teach people what to do is how to be a deliberate sender of their vibes. How can I deliberately stop sending a negative vibe? And how can I deliberately send the vibe of what I want? So I'm a speaker and a trainer. I travel the world delivering seminars. I've trained 470 people in 17 languages how to deliver this material, teaching people how to stop attracting negative things and how to start attracting more of what they want.
I find after I sell a house, I call up my clients. Okay, let's get going. And they hear the excitement in my voice and they go, okay, let's do it. Same thing. But also I find just my whole attitude is towards solving a problem, not being oppositional.
Oh, for sure. When you're complaining, you're sending a negative vibe. When you're worried about something, or, one thing I tell realtors and other salespeople, I said, mind your business. It's none of your business that Betty's not selling anything and Bob's having a bad day or the industry's not doing good this week. If you listen to those statistics, now you're sending the vibration of them. So your biggest job is it's none of your business what someone else is getting in the industry. Because as soon as you start to mind their business, now you're sending that same vibration. So it's better just to say, you know what, I had a good week this week. I did 3 showings. I got 5 inquiries. I sold 2 homes. Like, just keep doing an inventory of all the positive things. See, the key here is that law of attraction is only picking up one vibe at a time. So either you're sending a negative one by complaining and worrying, or you're sending a positive one. And the key here is like a hack. Law of attraction doesn't know if you're remembering or pretending or playing or making a collage or daydreaming. It's responding to that vibe. So be more deliberate about what you're giving attention to.
Okay. So how do people snap out of being in a bad mood then?
Well, see, bad moods are always caused by the use of the word don't, not, and no. And whenever we talk about no, if I'm complaining about what I don't want. If I'm worrying about what I don't want. If I'm negative, because it's something that I don't want. So whenever you feel yourself having these negative moods, law of attraction is responding to it. It's not very forgiving. It's not prejudice, and it doesn't have favoritism. It is unfolding and orchestrating to match your bad mood. So to snap out of it or to reset the vibe, whenever you catch yourself saying, oh, I don't want to have that. I don't want a client that cancels. I don't want a client that doesn't show up. I don't want a client that can't get in your business, that can't get a mortgage accepted. I don't want a client that complains. When you give that attention, you'll get more of it. So when you catch yourself using the word don't, not, and no, press your reset button and say, so what do I want? I know it sounds simple, but when you talk about what you do want, so if you say, well, I don't want a client that can't pay for my services. So what do you want? Well, I want a client that can pay for my services. So now you change the thought. And when you change the thought, you change the vibration. And you can only have one vibration at a time. So now law of attraction doesn't remember that you were complaining 5 minutes ago because it doesn't have a memory. It's only responding to the point of power, which is right now. So if you catch yourself being negative, always say, so what do I want instead? And when you change the words, you change the vibes. When you change the vibes, you change the results.
So there was a study from a long time ago, I think 1980s, in my psychology class, and they talk about luck and lucky people. And so when they were doing the study, it was a psychology study, is they had a newspaper there. And in the newspaper was this article, and it said, it was an advertisement, it was put there on purpose. That was the real test. That if you're in the study and you're reading the article, that you get $50. So just take this coupon and to the person doing the study, you'll get this money. And the people who believed in luck who were positive thinkers always found the coupon, but the people who didn't believe in luck didn't get it. So I just find that really interesting. So you're looking for it, really.
That's right. Same with door prize winners. In my seminar, I said, who here is a door prize winner? And you know why they're a door prize winner? Because they keep reclaiming it. And they say, oh, I always win door prizes. You see, the speed at which you'll get what you want is in direct proportion to how much doubt you have in receiving it. Or I know there's some of you out there that have parking spaces. Oh, I always get a parking space. Oh, parking spaces come to me easily. That's because you're celebrating your attractability, which means you are able to attract. And other people say, oh, I hate going downtown. I have friends that say, I hate visiting you. I can never find a parking spot. I said, yeah, I know. You already decided that before you left your house.
You're the wrong person to say that to.
Yeah, I am. Or I have other friends said, oh, I always get a parking space out front. And I always said, I know. You decided that when you left your house. See how powerful that is? Your thoughts are the ones that clear the way for you to get something. And the speed at which you'll get anything is determined in how much doubt you have in receiving it.
It's so true. Okay, so tell me about the second book we have here.
I have 2 other books. One is an NLP book here, and it talks about the 4 ways that people like to receive information. Some people like to hear it. Some people like to see it. Some people like to talk about it. Some people like to feel it. It's called Your Life's Purpose. Sorry, Law of Attraction. Law of Connection. And my latest book, which just came out a year ago in June, is called Your Life's Purpose. And I like to think that I know what everybody's life purpose is. How arrogant am I? You see, it's quite simple. The purpose of your life is to feel good. The real question is, what needs do I need to have met to make me feel good? That's the real question. So, and in my book, I start off with a list of 30 fulfillment needs. I coined the term, these are needs that fulfill us. And as you walk through the book, it's like Survivor. You have to eliminate. The first step, you eliminate 5. The second step, and at the end of the book, you'll have surfaced the 4 or 5 needs that are important to you. And then you say, boy, I remember I really loved that job when I was 25 years old, and because these needs get met. And I hate the job I have now because these needs are missing. So the purpose of your life is to feel good, and the real question is, what needs need to be fulfilled so I can feel good?
Do you know, so I used to teach high school students, and we talked about what they were going to be doing with their life. We, in both our health class, and we also looked at it in terms of employment. And this is something that probably kids at that age should be exposing themselves to, because, and I'm thinking of my son here, is he doesn't know what he wants, but he would probably be able to decide what he doesn't want.
That's right. Well, you know what? The 2 markets that I did this for everybody, but it finds that there's 2 kinds of people who are reading it. One is students, like university students, because, you have to be this, you have to be that, and they're not fulfilled. In that age group, they're all about fulfillment. If they're not fulfilled, they're out of there. And that's why there's so much challenge in the workplace for that age group, because they need to be fulfilled. They don't care about a paycheck in many cases. They want to go to work and make a contribution and be fulfilled. So what need is that for them? The second group of people are people our age, maybe a little bit younger, that are they want a new job. And they don't want to work 9 to 5 anymore. Or if they do, they're thinking, you know what, I want a job that fulfills me. And people are using that word way more than they did. I remember my dad had a job for 42 years and hated it, but he did a job. So back then, it wasn't about fulfillment. It was about supplying your family, right? And then my age group came up, and we did the same thing, and then we kind of wanted to like what we're doing. And now the new group, they're all about fulfillment. So what fulfills you? I'll give you a couple, some of the needs in the book are like achievement, power, intimacy, leadership, freedom, fun. It's like my dad would say, none of that's important. What's important is a paycheck. But now we're thinking, no, so my job, I love to have freedom. I got a lot of freedom. And my other need in the book was influencing people in a positive way. Everything I'm doing has to do that, or I'm not interested. I'm bored. One more thing. And when people say they're bored, they mean they're not fulfilled. I'm bored. It means you're not fulfilled. Period.
Well, I think also younger kids expect to be entertained. And when I was a teacher, it was a question, are you going to enter, if the kid's bored, I'm like, my job is not to entertain you. Your job is to open up your mind and learn this. And Jim Carrey has a very interesting clip, which you might want to show at the beginning of when you present this. And it talks about his dad, who was a very funny man. He said he became an accountant because that was what he was told to do. And he ended up, and he did that for stability. And of course he ended up being fired because he hated the job. Yeah. So Jim Carrey says, you might as well do what you love and then get fired doing what you love, because you're going to be happier anyway, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, my very first job, I was only 15 years old, so I was kind of under the working radar, but I was mowing lawns in a graveyard. And I hated it. And I remember I'm in a seminar in my hometown, and my sister and my family was there. And so I'm telling the story about my being unfulfilled. And my sister was at the back of the room. She said, oh, I remember that day. She said, you called me crying at lunch. And you said, come pick me up, but don't tell mom and dad. Because I wasn't getting my needs met. I wasn't influencing anybody. I didn't have any freedom. Intimacy is important to me, the intimate conversation, what we're doing right now, talking about goals and dreams. It was the worst job ever. And back then, I thought it had to do with the graveyard. It had nothing to do with the graveyard. It had to do with not being fulfilled.
Well, today, I had this same discussion with my 16-year-old son, who's been having some issues. And I said to him yesterday, because he was talking about being at home alone and how he didn't like it, and I've offered him these opportunities to go out and be with other kids, and I said, what you need to say is, because I think he's feeling a lack of freedom, but he needs people. And I said, you need to understand you get your energy from people. And he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. So,
well, I'm going to give you this book to take to him. And then he'll start off with the list and he'll find out what's important to him. And then once you know what's important to yourself, what the needs are. So here's mine. Attentiveness or attention. I'm getting that right now. I get it when I do book signings. I get it when I do my Facebook Live. I get it. And attention, not as show off attention, but the attentiveness, satisfying people, fulfilling, influencing them in a positive way, freedom and intimacy. When I get those 4 things, so when I uncovered out of all 30 needs, then I thought, okay, now I'm going to create strategies to get them met. So I have 2 Facebook Live shows a week. I'm doing 2 live seminars a month. I'm a professional speaker. I travel the world. And every time when I know it's coming up, I'm getting my needs met. And during it, I'm getting my needs met. So I'm pretty selfish. And selfish means self-care. I care about myself enough to be selfish enough to make sure that I'm only choosing the jobs and the activity that fulfill me. So when your son can get to the list and say, if I can get these 4 things met. No, I don't tell people what the job is. That's none of my business. My business is say, find a way to get these 4 needs met. And then when you do, then, the old expression, love what you do and the money will follow. Nobody understood what that meant. It's like, what does that mean? What it really means is if you can get fulfilled, and the question is, what fulfills me? When you can get fulfilled, then things come to you because you're sending a positive vibe. You're attracting the right people, the opportunities, more money because your vibes are good.
Okay, so how do people get in touch with you? I have seen Michael speak. He's very good. He was one of our best speakers at our networking group. So how do people get in touch with you and invite you to come to them? Okay,
that's pretty easy. They can go to hangoutwithmichael.com. Hangoutwithmichael.com. I have a guarantee when I do a speaking engagement. I have 3 things. I will get 100% of the audience participating within 18 seconds. Yes, I said 18 seconds. Secondly, I will keep everybody engaged fully, whether it's an hour or a full day seminar. I will keep them engaged fully. And number 3, they'll remember 100% of everything I told them and leave with at least 50 tools that they can practice to be whatever I'm going to be teaching them. You see, I'm using accelerated learning techniques. And the accelerated learning techniques, what does that mean? It means I'm using techniques that accelerate their learning because I'm teaching to all 4 styles. So whether you like to see it, hear it, do it, think about it, I will satisfy all of those students' learning styles. And I meet that guarantee every time.
Okay, so go to hangoutwithmichael.com. And if you want more information about these, they can get them online at hangoutwithmichael.com too.
You can check them all out there. All 3 of these books I have free downloads. You can even download the list of 30 needs if you want to check them out. With the NLP book, you can take the online assessment to find out what your favorite style is. But the real question is, what's your weakest one? Because your weakest style, they're the people that annoy you the most. So you want to learn that. And with this one here, there's a free course called How to Reset Your Vibes, which is what we just talked about. It's a free online video course. So lots of stuff for free on my website.
That's very generous of you. All right. So if you want more, hang out with Michael. And when are your hangouts?
Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And I do another one on Saturday at 9 o'clock Pacific time, Victoria time.
Okay. All right. So I hope you've learned a lot today. If you want Michael to speak, he is very engaging. I can attest to that. If you want more information about the Downtown Core, I'm Jane Johnston, realtor with the Briar Hill Group and host of Vancouver Island Time. We'd love for you to be our guest. And how do you do that? Go to vancouverislandtime.com and at the bottom, click on Be My Guest. And then if you want to see us, you can watch us on vancouverislandtime.com. We're also on Facebook at Vancouver Island Time. We're also on podcasts on Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, and now Spreaker. So if you want more information, you know where to find it. Stay tuned and welcome to the neighborhood. Bye.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or someplace that should be highlighted in our podcast, we love to hear from you. Please go to vancouverislandtime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.